Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the headline series, and this one will be on the Russo-Ukraine war or anything that is kind of related to it. And the biggest news over the past few days is actually the Zelensky speaking to Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, leader of China, the Chinese president. And according to the article by CNN, of course, the whole world, everyone is reporting on this as if it's something very significant. It is the first time, however, that they spoke since the Russian invasion, and according to Zelensky, he said that there is a long, meaningful phone chat with Xi Jinping, and this call, as well as the appointment of Ukraine's ambassador to China, it will give a powerful impetus to the development of bilateral relations. And the Ukrainian presidential office described the phone call as an important dialogue. CCTV, the Chinese state broadcaster, also confirms there will be an envoy that will be traveling to Ukraine to help with in-depth communication with all parties for a political settlement. However, very interesting, very weird thing is that on Twitter and many news channels or websites, they wrote this as if it is the China that actually initiated the call. It's not true. This call is actually initiated by Ukraine. Zelensky is the one that initiated and the phone call, and then is welcomed by China. So, and this is kind of coming out from a very funny situation, because previously Xi Jinping actually visited Moscow, right? And so Zelensky was expecting China to visit Kyiv next, and Xi Jinping kind of entirely ignored Ukraine. There was rumors saying that Zelensky is very frustrated that Xi Jinping never contacted him, and so maybe this is part of the reason why this happened, because he decided to call Xi Jinping instead, and the whole world celebrated the phone call as if it was a great breakthrough for Ukraine. And interestingly, even Russia welcomes this phone call. However, they did say that the special military operation will continue regardless. So the Kremlin spokesman says that they welcome that anything that can bring the end of the Ukraine conflict closer. And however, this is still needed. However, Russia still needed to achieve their aims in the special military operation. So yeah, so this is very interesting. And as for the fact that they communicated this is a sovereign matter for each of this country, and it's a question of their bilateral dialogue. So Russia basically don't really care that much about this phone call, and this is also what I think. Talking about phone call, fake Zelensky spoke to Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. So they had an extended phone call too with Zelensky, except that this is the fake Zelensky, and he actually kind of talked about. So the Federal Reserve chair basically said that in 2023 there is likely to be a recession or very slow growth. So he didn't say anything very embarrassing. So end up this did not go actually viral. But it is interesting how these pranksters from Russia has been continuously very successful at tricking everyone. I just don't understand how that works. So, and then there was this major news of a drone, a Ukrainian UJ-22 drone with a 17-kilogram explosive has been found in this town of Noginsk. And at the moment, there is no explosion or whatever. They found it near a garden association. The pro-Ukrainian medias and crowd say this is actually an attempted assassination of Putin, because Putin is supposedly going to go to some industry areas. I think around, I cannot remember, around this area here, and yeah. So, but no, I think that is kind of nonsensical. So then going on into the news in terms of the military side of things, or not so military side of things. This is Ukraine actually in 2022, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, they released the data showing that Ukraine in 2022 spent 6.4 times more than they used to spend in 2021, a 640% increase, and this actually goes up to 34% of the GDP, which is ridiculously high. Imagine you are only expected to spend 2% if you are a NATO country. 34%, you can see Ukraine is entirely within the wartime economy. This is basically total war kind of spending. And then moving on, Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia makes some kind of, they're in favor of giving Ukraine security guarantees without joining NATO. So this is kind of weird because it's basically allowing Ukraine to be in NATO without being officially NATO. And so Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia are really bullish. And not just them, the Baltic states too. Estonia now becomes the 10th country to declare support for Ukrainian NATO membership. It seems like they totally forgotten the whole point of NATO is to avoid war, and then everyone just want to be part of just want Ukraine to be part of NATO to make sure war happens to them. And somehow these 10 countries include Czech Republic, Belgium, Montenegro, Lithuania, Poland, Italy, Latvia, Iceland, Slovenia. So yeah, most of them is very bullish, very anti-Russia. So including Italy. So let's see how this goes. And then moving on to more on the military side of things, 98% of the promised combat vehicles are delivered to Ukraine, according to the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. So he said that the NATO's and allies and partner countries have delivered 98% of the promised vehicles. So I wonder what is the other 2%. So I'm not sure how where this number come in terms of the 98%. Maybe is talking about the past few months. So 1,550 armored vehicles and 230 tanks and other equipment has been delivered, and vast amount of ammunition. Also train and equip more than 9 new Ukrainian brigades. So as I mentioned, this number seems to be mainly talking about the past few months, focusing on the offensive. So more than 30,000 troops are estimated to make up the new brigades. So and there are some other NATO partners, including Sweden and Australia, also provided armored vehicles. So now Stoltenberg say that no, Ukraine is now in a strong position to retake occupied territory. So basically is in the layman term, now I given you the knife, please go and fight the war. So that's what it seems to be. And while that is happening, the Swiss ambassador, to Germany kind of defended his own statement, or maybe what Switzerland is doing, because he said that Switzerland cannot support war because they are neutral. It's part of their DNA, and they say that they don't think that their 12,000 rounds of ammunition is going to affect the war or decide its outcome. The 12,000 rounds that Switzerland is kind of blocking. So yeah, good on Switzerland in a way, because it is because once you start to break your neutrality, that like what Singapore have did, when Singapore sanctioned Russia, basically you took a side, and you're not gonna be so easily become neutral again. So on the 20th of April, Denmark and Netherlands actually announced that they will provide 14 more Leopard 2 tanks. So this is announced by the foreign minister of Denmark and the acting defense minister during the foreign policy council. So more Leopard 2s for Ukraine. And in United States, also on tanks, but this time around is the Abrams tank issue. The Abrams tanks has been so delayed to the point where 2 of the senators are pissed off, and they say that they are worried that the Ukraine will not have enough firepower to counter the Russian troops in the summer. And he said that by right, the American tanks should be in Poland right now so that they can be trained and used. So they said, so King said that this the longest wind up for a punch in the history of the world. So yeah, I agree. The pace of the delivery of Abrams tanks makes no sense to me as well. On the good news side, within Ukraine, the Skynex air defense system, which is a AA gun, is now operational. So this is actually like a Italian gun. So that's good. It will provide short range air defense systems, which the Ukrainians need. And on top of that, the Patriot SAM system, surface to air missile system, is also operational now in Ukraine. So and then on top of that, UK, United Kingdoms, also sent a lot of shells. However, they also sent depleted uranium shells to Ukraine. So this statement is coming from the Deputy Secretary of Defense, James Heapy. Yeah, so he's happy and hippie. So yeah, I'm not sure how significant is this uranium shells kind of thing. So let's hope it doesn't create some unnatural some radioactive disaster in Ukraine. And on top of that, 14,000 Ukrainian troops has finished their training in the United Kingdom. So that is good news for the Ukrainians. Means that the counteroffensive is definitely going to happen very soon, because you're not going to have 14,000 people sitting around and getting fat doing nothing. So Russia, because of all these news, especially with the delivery of the modern tanks, or rather modern tanks, because I'm not sure how modern is the modern tanks that they sent over. The Russians are countering with deployments of more T-90M tanks. So we already have seen footages of T-90Ms are being used even in Bakhmut. So yeah, so this is going to be significant. There is also rumors of the T-14 Armata tanks, the latest generation tank of Russia, being deployed in Ukraine. I'm not sure in what kind of capacity. Maybe it's just used for tests. It's like how BMPT was first used in Ukraine. It was pretty much used as more like a test platform first, and then because it's successful, then they start to send more. Let's see how this goes. And on top of that, then there's this major news coming out from information. So information, as in the media, is actually called information. .dk, I think it's a Denmark newspaper. So they actually reported that the defense command of Denmark actually has possession of images of Russian vessels in the area, and for the first time they actually confirmed that the Russian vessel SS-750 had a mini subs on it. This is the vessel that is in question. And however, the defense command also refused to provide access to the images, because they say that this is actually classified information. And if you can go and check out the article, you can actually go to defensepoliticsasia.com. You can actually go to the map here and actually click on the articles. You can actually see the article. Go to the link. Oops, I'm lost. Where am I? Yeah. So you can actually go to the link and actually go and read. The article is actually pretty comprehensive. There is maps. It looks really legitimate. Does seems very suspicious. Because the Russian vessels, especially this vessel in particular, actually turn off their identification signals, and actually have been patrolling around the area where the pipelines are. So yeah, it's pretty credible. You can go and check it out, but it's in Danish, so you should actually do translation using your browser. And moving to the next news, there is proposal by the G7 for a total ban of exports to Russia. However, this is immediately opposed by EU and Japan. Surprisingly, EU actually opposed it, and this is kind of weird. So there's supposed to be a pledge, to actually do a total ban, and the total ban will include agricultural, medical, and other exemptions. So this is actually proposed, I think, by the United States, but it doesn't work, because one of the officials, who is anonymous, say that in their point of view, this is simply impossible. So yeah, weird development. Then on the G7 side, they actually met in Japan around a few days ago, and they said that they will support the Ukrainian farmers. I think it's post-war, to rebuild, in irrigation, warehouses, food processing destroyed by Russia and everything. So there is some support there by G7 for Ukrainian farmers. And then in another news, so if you have followed the Czech Rep on the Ukraine war, you would have known that the Ukrainians actually launched a naval drone attack. Basically speedboats, unmanned speedboats against the Black Sea Fleet port in Sevastapol, and Russia is now planning to suspend the grain deal because of this drone attack. And this information coming directly from the Russian Defense Ministry. They say that they have been under multiple attacks by unmanned boats already, and the only reason they willing to even do this humanitarian corridor is because of Turkey's guarantee and Ukrainian Britain commitments. However, these guarantees has been violated on the March 23rd and April 24th. So, and they have analyzed the route of the unmanned boats and show that they are all launched from the port of Odessa, where this entire Green Deal or the Black Sea Initiative is implemented on. So they said now the Green Initiative that is now up for extension on the 18th of May will be threatened. So basically, I believe Russia might actually just suspend it. And the UN Secretary General reacted by proposing the extension. So he actually delivered the letter to Lavrov to be sent to Vladimir Putin, outlining the proposal to improve, prolong, and expand the agreement to allow the export of Ukrainian grain by sea. And the weird thing is, based on pro-Russian media channels on Telegram, they are pointing that most of these grains all goes to Europe. Almost none of them goes to Africa. And those that are supposed to go to Africa, which is just a few vessels, has not been allowed to go. This, I'm not sure, I haven't really I just want to share because I saw this, but I cannot corroborate this just yet. But it does shows a bit of a duplicity of the United Nations, because the UN entire idea was to help the poorer countries, especially particularly in Africa and the Arab world, to make sure that they have the Ukrainian grains that they are supposed to get. And somehow none of this grain is going to Africa. They are all going to Europe. And this actually resulted in even some reaction, where you have Poland, Romania, and some other countries all reacting by wanting to ban Ukrainian grains within their country, because it is messing up with their own local production. So anyway, this is the headlines for the Russo-Ukraine war over the past few days or a week. It's a bit hard to collate all this information because most of the news is just nonsensical. A lot of very how do you put it, sensational headlines that make no sense. A lot of fake news, a lot of small things getting blown out of its scale, and it makes a very hard research work to do or reading to do for me. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if you like me to continue to cover the geopolitical scene of the Russia-Ukraine war, and do let me know, and I'll try to keep up. As you can see, we have the Sudan Civil War, European crisis, and defense news as well coming up soon. And hopefully we'll get there sometime. And I'll see you in the next update.